So today's been kind of a busy day. Started out with rain, and so during the raining part I went ahead and edited a couple of videos that I got behind on the other channel. Then I had to return the mower. Now I had hoped to get this mower returned before it started raining last night, and the guy said no, you'll have to wait till tomorrow. So I put it in the back of the truck, had to put a tarp over it and hope for the best. Well, I lucked out. It didn't get windy, so the tarp stayed on it. And then I guess about 9 o'clock we left to take that thing back. Yeah, that was easy money. It was just a belt replacement. Well, last night, you may remember yesterday's video was really short because last night while I was recording, a guy showed up with the lawnmower. Now I need to give you a little bit of history of this lawnmower because I'm frustrated today, and I don't know why I'm frustrated. Probably at the company who makes the lawnmower. It's probably who I'm most frustrated with. But so about a month ago, guy comes over and says this thing's hard to start, and so when you turn the key, it'll go "Rrr," like the battery was dead or the starter's bad. So I looked at the valves because that's one of the things that could cause this problem, and I checked them and they seemed fine. I didn't even adjust them. I just checked them. I tried to find online through a variety of sources that I always use for valve adjustments. Typically you can find the valve adjustment in your owner's manual, what the tolerance is supposed to be. So you can look up the PDF of that. So I went and looked up the PDF, and there was just no information. Absolutely no information. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to give you the last number of the part number on the mower, which was a 7. Anytime I typed in the part number with the 7, it would always come up with the part number with the 8 at the end. And it was very confusing. And then I told the guy, look, it's not that hard to start. All you got to do is turn the crank by hand until you're off the compression stroke, and it starts right up. And he was fine with that. I said, in the fall, we can take another look at it and see what we can do about it. Well, during the last month, I've done some research on this mower, and I found out that nobody knows anything about it. I even messaged a guy I know, a mechanic, who's been working on lawnmowers forever. Actually, he brings in $500,000 in revenue. Now, that's not profits, but in revenue. He's got a shop, and he works on everything. And this mower is fairly new, and he couldn't understand the part numbering system either. I mean, it was confusing. Nobody knew what the valve tolerance was. And, you know, there's standard sources to look for this information. So most lawnmowers has an engine part number and a mower part number. The engine part number is on the engine somewhere, and that's what you look for engine parts. And then if you're looking for the mower parts, like a lawnmower blade or a spindle or a belt, you type in the lawnmower part number. What it is there's like 3 companies that make engines, 3 or 4, you know, Briggs & Stratton, Kohler, and Kawasaki. So they have their own part numbers. And then you got the mower, you know, John Deere, Craftsman, they have their own part number. So John Deere buys an engine from Briggs & Stratton, puts it on their mower, so there's 2 part numbers. It's just so simple how this works. So this Exmark had a part number on the engine, had a part number on the mower. I took a picture of both of them, but for the last month, nobody can figure out anything. So Carolyn actually got on Reddit, and people have been asking the question about the part number 7. And nobody had any information. Now, hundreds of people, I don't know. So it's like this motor doesn't exist. Well, so yesterday morning, he calls me up and says, hey, they won't start. And I said, are you talking about the hard to start thing? Because I was going to tell him, you're going to have to take that to a certified mechanic, whoever works on those, Exmark, you know, whatever, and get it worked on. Because I don't know, because the camshaft doesn't even have a compression relief. Very confusing. So how does it relieve compression? Nobody knows. There's no information anywhere in the world. He says, no, that's not the problem. It'll turn over, but it just won't start. So I said, okay, bring it over. And so him and his brother brought it over, and it stayed on the trailer. I didn't even take it off the trailer. I hook up my external gas tank to it. We start it up, runs fine. they have water in the gas. Once we got the water out of the gas, it ran fine. So that afternoon, he calls me back up and says, it's a twin cylinder, you know, it's got 2 cylinders, V-twin. He says, the left cylinder isn't working anymore. Well, see, I'm starting to get the impression they feel like I should have been responsible for this. I haven't charged them a dime for anything yet. Nothing. I haven't fixed anything. I haven't adjusted anything. The only thing I did was check the valve clearance. They were fine. Got the water out of the gas. That's it. I haven't charged for zero money. Now, the only thing I have charged for on that mower was he asked me if I could change a tire. So I took one tire off, put another tire on. The tire still works. And they said, they literally said, when I said, well, I didn't charge you for that. Yes, you did. No. I gave it back to you for free. I didn't charge it. Yes, you did. You charged us $20. I said, for the tire? Yeah. Well, how does the tire guarantee the engine's going to run? So they bring it back, and the left side has no compression. So it's either, there's something wrong with the valves, something on that left side. The right side's fine. The problem is the right side is backfiring terribly bad. I said, well, what you need to do is you need to take it to a certified mechanic. I can't work on it. I don't have any information. I don't know anything about this. Everything I would be doing is a guess. That's exactly what I said. I would be guessing on anything. Valve clearances, a guess, no idea. I don't even know if I order the head, if it would actually be the correct head because of the serial, the part number. One was 7, one was 8. I assume 8 was the correct part number, and they just mislabeled it on the machine. That's the only thing I can think of. So he drops it off after I insist that I don't want to work on it. Well, I trust you. I even said, you don't want to trust me. How can you trust me? I don't know anything about this machine. There's no information anywhere in the world. You need to take it to a certified mechanic. He just wouldn't hear of it. He says, I got to take it all the way back to Kansas. I'm not going to do that. So I dig into the valve cover. I take off the valve cover, and immediately I see what the problem is. The locking nut to adjust the valves has fallen off. It's really no big deal. So it's not opening and closing, it's just staying open. So there's no compression. So I put it back on. And again, I don't know the valve clearances. Can't find any information. So I adjust them to what everything else is, which is roughly 4 to 7 thousandths. Briggs is that way, Kohler is that way. Kawasaki, I think, goes up to 8 thousandths. But they're all within that range, and it's not a spaceship. You know, we're not building rockets here. So you can be off by 1,000ths or 2. It isn't going to hurt anything. And if it does hurt anything, it's going to be so minute you won't even notice. You might get worse gas mileage, but really, you're cutting grass. Who notices gas mileage? Nobody. I say, okay, it's got compression, but it just doesn't sound right. I said, it's probably the valve clearance, but I don't know what the valve clearance is. But I didn't run it. I just started it because we wanted to see if that one side had compression. That's all I did, because that's what he wanted fixed. So he comes over, starts it up, thinks that, hey, this is great, it's running great. And then he goes out on the road, does some donuts, turns on the mower, goes, and it speeds back up, loses RPM, speeds back up. Well, this ain't right, you're gonna have to fix this, Now remember, I haven't charged him anything, nothing. So he brings it back down. And I said, well, I don't know what the valve clearance is. Everything I'm doing is a guess. Now remember, I said 4 to 6, it's pretty generic. That's pretty much where it is. Sometimes the exhaust side is a little higher, like I said, maybe 8. I said, I can't find anything. So he says, I have the owner's manual. I'll go down there and I'll read it and see if there's any information about, what'd you call it, valve clearance? I said, well, valve clearance, specification, valve lap. It could be any of that kind of stuff. If it's got a valve, and like 0.00 something, that's got to be it. He says, okay. So within 10 minutes, he calls me. He says, I got it. And he says, the first one is 6 to 10 thousandths. Oh, wow, that's huge. I mean, it wasn't terribly huge, but it was a little bit higher than I expected. So that's on the intake side. Then he goes to the exhaust side. It's 10 to 14 thousandths. I mean, I'm nowhere near that. So I said, okay, I'll adjust it. So I adjusted, put everything back together, and it's running terrible, just terrible. Now remember, I haven't charged him for anything. I think, maybe there's a spark plug problem. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just gonna go grab a couple spark plugs and check it. That's all I was gonna do. I took it out, put new spark plugs in, ran fine. It just ran fine. He comes back and he says, hey, that's great, that's great. What do you want for this? How much you want? And I said, you know what? I don't want to see this mower ever again. I don't want it to be under warranty. I don't want to have any responsibility to it, so just take it. I said, there's 2 new spark plugs on there. You've got, you know, about 10 bucks worth of parts on it now. He says, why'd you replace the spark plugs? I just bought those yesterday. I said, well, one of them's bad. So he says, I want those back. I'm taking them back to the store. So not only did he not have to pay for the repairs of his lawnmower that's just falling apart and there's no information on, he's gonna get $10 because he's taking the spark plugs back. So he's actually made money on this deal. Now I recognize this isn't his fault. Well, it is his fault because, like I said, every time he came over, I said, I don't want to work on this machine. I trust you. I don't know why you're trusting me. I don't know anything about it. How can you trust something that I don't know anything about? I was being as honest as possible. I'd even say, look, I'm trying to be just square away with you. This is dangerous for me to work on a machine that I don't know anything about. I can't find any information. And so, you know, like me adjusting it, 4 to 6 thousandths. You know, what if I'd have damaged something? Was he going to hold me responsible? And I even said that, you know, I don't want to be responsible for this because if you sue me, then I'm buying you a new mower. And it's a $7,000 mower. And I didn't want anything to do with it originally. Fortunately, I had some of this documented where I said I didn't want to work on it. And he insisted. I mean, he got free labor out of me all day today. 2 new spark plugs. And I don't want to work on the machine anymore. But I don't think he sees it that way. So he gets it up to the trailer. Now I've spilt oil on the muffler, which happens. Because when you take those valve covers off, it just drains everywhere. No matter what you do, you put a rag on it, it doesn't matter. So he's running it up to his trailer and it's just smoking up a storm because that oil's burning up. And I run up there and his wife is, you can see, she's just panicked. She's trying to wave him down to get him to stop. And I'm running up there because I forgot to tell him about the oil on the muffler. And so I run up there and I said, I spilled some oil on your muffler, so it's going to smoke for a little bit, but it'll burn off. Just keep an eye on it. Don't let it catch on fire. But it's fine. It'll burn off. So did you change the oil while you were at it? No. Why would I do that? Well, I just figured since you were working on it, you go ahead and change the oil. I couldn't even believe he just said that. He made $10 off this process. And he also wanted, what, probably $25 worth of oil filter. So I was just blown away. So Carolyn and I have been discussing it. First of all, what we figured out is Exmark does not number anything correctly. So we've done a lot of digging today trying to figure out how they identify their stuff. And for whatever reason, they identify all their part numbers based on the mower part number, not the engine part number. I don't know what the engine part number is for because it's completely irrelevant. It has nothing to do with anything. So at least now we did find the valve clearance. So what was in his manual is actually online in a PDF file, which is exactly what I was looking for. But you got to go to Exmark to do it. You can't just go to any place. I mean, there's thousands of web pages that has all this information, but not Exmark. So at least it got, you know, we learned something out of this deal, is I guess what I'm trying to say. But we're trying to figure out what we're going to do. And I mean, of course, we got the sense right away. I got the sense, I should say, right away that he was going to be hard to work with. He wasn't going to take no for an answer. And I got that with this grasshopper too. He wants me to rebuild the pump, the hydrostatic pump. And I've said no multiple times. I even said no before he even brought it over here. I said, no, I'm not going to work on it. It's a 1996 and parts are sporadic at best. The only pump I can find is a used pump. So he wants me to rebuild it. Well, okay, if I rebuild it, where am I going to get the parts? It only has one little leak on it, and it's not that big a deal. But they seem to be trying to bully me into doing things. So if I do work on something and I run into a problem where the customers happen to giving me the sense that there is going to be repercussions, we're not going to charge. And except for parts, we may charge for parts, but in this case, you know, like I said, we gave him spark plugs. And I discussed it with Carolyn before, but then after, she said, you know, after thinking about it, maybe we should have charged for the spark plugs. But I don't think he would have been happy with that. I mean, like he said, you know, like I said, he wanted this old spark plugs back. I had to dig in the trash to get them. I'm actually trying to figure out maybe that he's not going to take them back. He wanted to make sure that I actually changed them. So I don't know, it was just kind of an interesting day, and I'm just kind of talking to you about it. I'm not really, like I said, not really sure I'm going to how to handle this. As long as I'm trying to build up my reputation, I'm going to have to just do some jobs for free. Because my reputation isn't solid enough to withstand a trashing on Facebook. So if I was doing this for several years and, you know, hundreds of people had already used me and they're all happy with me, and then you got this one guy who's just all angry, they'd be like, hey man, he's a great mechanic, what are you talking about? So that's kind of the idea. We'll just play it by ear from now, you know, one by one. So if you'll click this up next box, it'll take you to a brand new video on my other channel. I really appreciate it if you go check it out. So I hope I can inspire you to figure out your dreams so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.